If you grew up around the early 2000s, odds are good your first crush was not available in 3D. We had it good back then. Today, however, we are living in very different times. Yet the more things change, the more they stay the same. We've seen a whole rash of shows over the last few years appealing to the sense of nostalgia for days gone by. And finally, the time has come for the Y2K return. At least in part, as a little 7-minute long animated pilot took social media by storm and is rapidly climbing towards 1 million views right now. The proverbial butterfly has flapped its wings, as this is Butterfly, from the little indie animation PLANETRONIKA. Clearly a big throwback to the 2000s style, to the point where the video is locked at 480p. Yet, mixed in with the positive reactions were things like Y2K slop cartoon with added female porn bait character, or PLANETRONIKA is going for the incredibly horny European anime-inspired cartoons of the Double O's, or but I think the only reason PLANETRONIKA is getting attention is because of its gooner bait lead. Porn bait? Incredibly horny? Gooner bait? I clearly need some testosterone tablets because I am not horny enough for this. I mean, come on. The only thing exposed on her are the armpits. Oh, yeah. I never understood that one. Anyways, the point is, here we have a cute and certainly attractive female character for sure, and yes, some of the fan art is certainly heading in a certain direction, as Mr. Mask would say, a wooga. But that's the fan art. Everything else is, well, normal? At the very least by the 2000 standards. But there is, of course, the problem. We are not in the good old days anymore. We are in the age of safe horny. The war on anything even resembling normal sexuality. An age where it is more controversial to say you want to fuck Eve from Stellar Blade than it is to say that you want to get your guts rearranged by a 12-foot cowcock. And this has had some interesting effects on society at large. Back in the 2000s, this would have just been normal, average, and would almost certainly not have encouraged such an immediate slew of adventurous fan art. The critique is correct on one point. We have become a much hornier and more degenerate civilization, and I place the blame for that squarely at the feet of safe horny. The sterilization of normal male sexuality and the outright stigmatization of any hot character in gaming or entertainment has led to a whole lot of extra degeneracy. Hell, I remember when Monster Girl Quest came out, and that was considered very, very edgy, highly controversial. And today, well, getting fluffed to death by a 700-pound fox girl is hitting Amish levels of vanilla intimacy. It really is quite fascinating, but the more sexually repressed we get as a society, the more insanely degen we become as well. Which is why we can now look at a fully clothed chick whose only exposed flesh is a thin line of midriff and her arms, and apparently declare her to be blatant gooner bait. Although, there are some different motivations for that particular accusation as well, which we shall dive into now, as we raise the simple question: how did we get to this mildly insane position? Safe horny, that's how. Allow me to elaborate, as you have probably heard the term before at least, but you may not know precisely what it means or refers to. The term was coined back in 2023, pseudo-recent by internet standards, when Blizzard announced a new hero for Overwatch. Yeah, the preceding one. No, not 2. No, right, no, it's just Overwatch again. Never mind. Anyways, Life We Were. A very Fabio-esque inspired hero aimed squarely at the female gaze. Furthermore, as Blizzard was in the habit of doing back then, he had some sort of sexual and or mental disorder to boot. Pansexual, I think, was the excuse of the day. The mainstream gaming publications wasted no time at all throwing their panties at him, declaring him to be hot. And one person on Twitter pointed out that this was safe horny, a new subset of safe edgy. Now, you're probably all too familiar with that term. Safe edgy is progressive opinions or memes that are presented to the world as if they were totally edgy and super risque, whilst carrying absolutely zero consequences whatsoever. Think Hassan Piker, one of the richest influencers alive today, wearing a Tax the Rich shirt. Or Robert De Niro saying fuck Trump from the biggest stage on Earth. Or literally any joke, quotation marks, joke, that targets white people. You know, stuff posted by 30-plus-year-old boomers with bright green hair that still thinks, somehow, they're fighting against the patriarchy. In fact, we got a fantastic example of this a few weeks ago, with the middle-aged white guy artist known as Banksy putting up a statue in London with full governmental approval, showing a man blinded by a flag. Anywho, safe horny is the sexy equivalent of this. Something you're allowed to be publicly horny about. Something that makes you feel as if you're being a little transgressive out there, whilst not really actually risking anything. But what then is the determining factor in this? How do we know what you're, quote, allowed to be attracted to? Well, its earliest and simplest definition is quite simply not what you, as a straight male, is attracted to. Anything and everything a normal man might find appealing, like a smirking, sassy redhead, for example, which is basically an adult Gwen, which is everything I've ever asked for in this world, is bad, naturally. This in generally is referred to as, if we are going to get academic, the male gaze. A coin first used way back in 1975 in an essay written by a second-wave feminist by the name of Laura Mulvey. She theorized, or, well, declared, more like, that the male gaze, which was attracted to, you guessed it, traditionally attractive females, a sharp plot twist indeed, was in fact oppressive. Because you see, if men wanted a certain thing in their women, and thus in turn in their entertainment, this then was the men controlling women, and how they were allowed to appear and appeal to them, forcing them to take on the role of a simple spectacle. Their minds and agency were therefore rejected, and the women were robbed of all power. And there's the word that pretty much sums it all up: power. Because even as the concept of the male gaze and safe horny has evolved, we now see more conventionally attractive women be claimed as safe horny too. For example, Bayonetta was once described by Anita Sarkeesian herself in a outstandingly erudite video essay. Boy, that is a lick and swallow level of brown nosing right there. Anyways, as a case in point, Bayonetta was an example of the fighting fuck toy. Say what you will about the Wicked Witch of the West, she does know how to write a video title. And indeed, Bayonetta, a woman dressed entirely in her own hair and spinning and stretching a lot as she fights, seems to be precisely the kind of character the progressive Sturmabteilung would march in perfect lockstep against. However, Bayonetta has actually become a feminist icon now. Yeah, this woman, with her enormous dump truck ass, is a feminist icon. Now there's an actual plot twist. The reason for this odd little transformation is that Bayonetta is now seen as empowering. Power. So, we have two distinct brands of safe horny. One is the stuff that most straight men would have a challenging time jerking off to, like thirsty sword lesbians, and its aggressively uggo art style. Or the enormous variety of straight-up monster rape fetish material out there. Or just in general, men dressing up in leather and latex pretending to be dogs. Then, on the other hand, we have characters that might very well be attractive, like Bayonetta, or even characters that are quite obviously just pure fetish material, like Lady Dimitrescu. I mean, come on now. A 9-foot dummy mummy that chases you around a castle, not to mention her 3 daughters desperately hungry for man meat. And if you want to talk about unrealistic body standards, as IGN really wanted to do with Stellar Blade, calling Eve a, quote, a doll sexualized by someone you would think has never seen a woman, end quote. Never mind the inconvenient fact that Eve is literally body scanned from a real woman. Just disregard that and let us talk about instead turning a 5'6" Polish woman into a 9'6" vampire with tits thicker than most men's thighs. So, how do we square this round hole again? The answer will truly shock you. The left has a double standard. I know. Shocking. Although, okay, to be fair here, it is less of a double standard and more of a, well, no, it is a double standard, but they have a reason for it. A bad reason, sure, that will have required significant amounts of mental gymnastics, but we'll get to that a little bit later, but a reason nonetheless. There is a paragraph from an article that I would like to read to you here that lays it out pretty well. Keep in mind the whole male gaze thing we mentioned earlier and how it oppressed women as you hear it. Quote, take a character like Lara Croft, for example. When Tomb Raider first launched, she was hailed as a watershed moment for gaming. A tough female heroine here to ruffle some feathers in a very male-dominated medium. And no doubt about it, Lara was that watershed moment. But several men tried to steal this power away, whether intentionally in order to keep gaming male-dominated or accidentally because they had never had to consider women in their space before. Things like the nude raider myth, the boob-sized bug myth, officially busted once and for all in our interview with Toby Gard, and other over-sexualized depictions of her tried to rob Laura of her shine. While women saw her as an icon, a trailblazer, many men acted as if nothing had changed. Lara was there as a plaything for them, both literally and metaphorically. End quote. Now, I can visibly see the confusion on your face. What do you mean Lara Croft was ruffling male feathers? Or that gaming geeks from the 90s were trying to keep gaming a male-dominated space? Oh yes, that was a common refrain back then. Gosh, I really wish all of these gorgeous women with enormous tits would get out of my video games. Endless complaining. Believe you me, I was there at the time. And, God, again, if Lara was ruffling anything, it was hardly our pristine coats. I mean, have we forgotten every piece of advertisement made for the early Tomb Raider games? What about the one with a literal stripper in it, where the point was that Lara was so hot, the boys were abandoning the titty bars to go play Tomb Raider instead? To assert that Lara Croft was in some way a deliberate assault on masculinity, oh, that is a Hassan Piker level rewrite of history right there. Now, if, however, we were talking about today's Lara, then we have an argument. See, Lara Croft became one of the early battlegrounds in the feminist push to conquer gaming. The reason why they abandoned the Sarkeesian fighting fucktoy position was because even they realized that taking a stand against all attractive females was a bit of a losing move. And so instead, they tried to claim and subvert them. Lara Croft is their most successful capture to date, having turned her from a character played by Angelina Jolie, and even she had to stuff her bra to fill out the role, to being played by a sentient washboard in the 2018 film, which bombed with a 6.3 rating and failed to even break even. And in the 2024 animated version, where there is literally no excuse at all to not give her the full twin powers, she was represented as a small Asian boy. Oh yes. Oh yes, indeed. The animated Lara Croft was so bad, she in fact gets titmogged by her voice actress. We live in a society. This, then, is the reason why Lady Dimitrescu is okay, and why Lara is okay now as well. Both of these characters are now their characters. They are built not for the male gaze, which is of course oppressive and unempowering, but instead built for the female gaze. They are queer-coded, or otherwise signaling to the progressive side that they are their fighting fucktoys now. Of course, this realization leaves them in a position where it is necessary to do some serious mental gymnastics. I mean, the male gaze is the worst thing ever. It literally ruins women's lives and reduces them to twitching mental wrecks. It is a lens of entitlement, one that gives men the right to stare at women, to touch them, and inevitably grape them. In our modern day grape culture. Oh yeah, this was from 2013, back when feminists were concerned about rape culture. Before the rape statistics exploded. Ironic that. Anywho, the question is, if this thing is so unbelievably terrible, how can we do it to others with a straight face? How can we just replicate the male gaze and somehow make it a good thing? Incidentally, this is where most sane people would go, are we the bad guys? But instead, the left went looking for justification, and has over the years managed to produce a dizzying array of articles carrying out some truly astonishing spins, twists, and turns. I won't waste your time by going through all of it, and rather just dive to the gooey center, hidden deep underneath language intentionally meant to muddy the issue and protect the writer's fragile ego from the self-realization of the obvious double standards at play here, is a very simple point, as demonstrated in this title from Inverse. Quote, Stellar Blade and the male gaze, attractive to who? End quote. And furthermore, in the article it also goes on to ask, and what does this say about the players the game is chasing? What gender are they? What sexuality? What nationality? Oh, I wonder. Even then going on to say in the article that it is very unwise to appeal to those silly male gamers alone. Don't they know they're alienating a huge market by just focusing on those dumb little minorities in gaming? You know, straight males. Oh well, anyways, those silly white males bought 6 million copies, so I think the studio is doing okay. But hey, thank you for your very honest and helpful advice there. For you see, despite all evidence to the contrary, this is where the big double salto split finish mental gymnastic comes in. Progressives, you understand, aren't trying to make games less sexy. They just want to make them more sexy for more people. Oh, wow. Really? You could have fooled me. And of course, that was the point. None of this is honest critique, of course. A game like Concord is not made to be more sexy for more people, unless you really want to try out what those fat flabs feel like around your... Anyways, it's made specifically to repel the male gaze and customers. judging by the statistics. Fact is, very few people actually jerk off to politics. And thus, every progressive sexual game so far has been an earth-shattering disaster. The most recent one probably being 1348 Ex Voto, a game praised by progressive media and given an enormous amount of attention on the socials, before converting millions of Twitter impressions into 400 people peak concurrent. With 5 people playing the game at the time of recording. This is quite obviously not about helping games reach a wider audience, let's be even remotely honest for but a second here. And it has nothing to do with normal sexuality being somehow goon slop or porn addicted either. Not really. It is all about power. Progressive sexuality, good. Male sexuality, bad. And not even because it's necessarily sexually appealing. We could quite easily redefine even that down to simply progressive thing good. Because even if the progressive thing does everything the male gaze is criticized for, so long as it is progressive, it is good. Let me grab on to another current pop cultural phenomenon to demonstrate this with Z-Pop's hit show Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel, both picked up by Amazon and given massive budgets, not to mention enormous coverage and advertising. And what does exactly these shows do? Let me give you a quick little list here. We start off with the enormously abusive gay BDSM romance between a peasant and an aristocrat, whose only meaningful initial connection is bribery and rubber cocks. Then we have the love story between the literal embodiment of the sin of lust, who by the by owns a plastic cock factory, and his half-robot sex toy. Both gay, of course. Or what about the story where a gay male porn star is beaten, butt spanked, and choked within an inch of his life by 24 barbed demon cocks twice a day, whilst his boyfriend watches? Yeah. These are the same people complaining that this fully dressed redhead's ass is on screen too often. And yet, this is all perfectly fine. Not even just fine, Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss is primetime television fine. We literally have here a story about a gay man getting cornholed till he cries, sexually assaulted day in and day out until he can see no other way out for himself but to die. And all we hear from the audience is polite clapping. It is the literal embodiment of I care not about your booze, for I have seen what makes you cheer. And again, it is singularly and solely because this is a show presented through a queer lens. You try to do anything even in the same ballpark as this anywhere else, even once, let alone 3 times, and you will feel the full weight of over 9,000 obese feminists pressing down upon your spine. Case in point, an enormously famous Batman story, The Killing Joke, had a variant cover featuring the Joker and Batgirl. It is a chilling image. It is impactful and communicates perfectly the deep darkness of the comic. It is a goddamn work of art which does exactly what a variant cover is supposed to do: be interesting, exciting, and drive attention to the product. It was, of course, cancelled for denying Batgirl's agency. In other words, it's the male gaze again. And yet in Vivzy Pops' universe, this shit is fucking Tuesday. Getting shot and graped just once is a slow day for Angel Dust, a freaking vacation. But it's okay, cause he's gay. Oh boy. Now that does feel like hate speech. And naturally, this is not a double standard. Oh, no, totally not. For you see, the progressive defense here is that context matters. I'm getting flashbacks to a Scot and a pug for some reason, but details. The thrust is agency, narrative framing, and who's behind the camera is important here. Vivzy Pop, being a queer demisexual panda, or some such thing, changes everything. It is not hypocrisy, it is evolution beyond the binary male gaze. Allowing them to have their cake and glaze it too. When you do it, it is oppressive and evil, and you should immediately end your own life via a lawnmower. When we do it, it's harmless, empowering fun, because we control the gaze. It is our story. We determine where it goes and what is and is not acceptable. Implicit within this assertion is, of course, also that we cannot coexist. We can't have a smug redhead for the guys and gay anal prolapse for whatever the hell those people are, since it is about power. One must be allowed and the other must not. One must be showed maximum charitability and tolerance, and the other must be declared gooner bait and porn-brained. They will have their toys, and if you dare to have a toy for yourself, they will take it away from you, shame you for liking it to begin with, and then mutilate it right in front of you. It is not, therefore, actually about whether or not it's hot, or if they are attracted to it even. It is asserting agency, and agency is power. Anything that furthers that goal is good. This is, for example, also how our dear friend and role model, Vorsh, could survive the horse files. Because the audience has no actual objection whatsoever, even to the most studiously vile of degeneracy, even to the shit you would use as a hyper-exaggerated example of a truly wild and wicked individual that has experienced a bit too much pornography in his time, because it's not about the degeneracy. It's not about the pornification of it. So long as it is their degeneracy, it is fine. To drag this all the way back to PLANETRONIKA, this is not about Butterfly being too hot or too sexualized and how many times her ass is on screen. It is not about them believing it's gooner bait or porn or anything like that, and all of those terms are yet again meant purely as weapons, to try and shame you. The reason for the outrage around Butterfly is that she's normal. This is what men are supposed to be attracted to. And when you're actively and deliberately trying to destroy men's sexuality, that is a bad thing. And finally, I'll go out on a little bit of a limb here that could be misconstrued by the particularly maliciously minded, but young boys, and to a degree young girls as well, they do actually need a little bit of sexuality in their entertainment. Nothing overt, obviously, nothing directly to do with sex, but having attractive female characters in entertainment, and attractive males as well, but it's not like anyone has been trying to take them away, it is actually healthy. Watching Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle chase one another back and forth over rooftops is a good thing. Watching Lois and Clark dance around one another until Superman finally reveals who he is, and all of the drama and the fallout surrounding it, and Lois getting abducted 17 times a day, all of this is a perfectly good way of letting the younglings know that it is perfectly normal and natural to be attracted to the opposite gender. Welcome to 2026. And this groundbreakingly edgy pronouncement. boys and girls are allowed to like one another. And if absolutely nothing else, at the very least, butterfly is a hell of a lot more healthy than tossing transformers at children. God help me. Built as a male, transformed into a woman. Until next time, I have been Arch. Thank you very much for listening, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.